Now, like Crudil, I already feel like this is way too big a topic for one video and we're only a few seconds in. I love Christmas movies. I love watching through them this time of year. It's a bit of a ritual for me. I've been watching Christmas movies over the last few weeks, and after years of just not taking the opportunity, I finally watched Die Hard. If you spend any time online, you'll know that there's massive debate around whether Die Hard is a Christmas film or not. There are a lot of factors to take into consideration, and this really got me thinking about what makes a Christmas film anyway? Is It's a Wonderful Life a Christmas film? Is Home Alone a Christmas film? There's only one way to find out. YouTube commentary video essay analysis. That's coincidentally all the tags for this video. Also, warning, there will be spoilers for these films. The first ever film to feature Christmas was a short film from 1898 called Santa Claus. There's not a lot to discuss about it because it's kind of just a little pantomime about how Santa would enter the home and leave presents for kids whilst they were sleeping. Interestingly, Santa brings the tree with him, awkwardly sits it down, and then picks it back up again and takes it away when he disappears. Did the director forget to put the tree up and was like, yeah, Santa, if you could just hold it, that would be great. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the most popular Christmas film of all time as our classic example. It's a Wonderful Life. I love this film. I think it gets better and better each time you watch it. I've heard people say that the middle is too long. They are wrong. Now, could this story have taken place at another time? Maybe. The majority of the film doesn't take place at Christmas anyway. The only time Christmas is relevant is on the day that George Bailey is having his crisis. But this is where Christmas is culturally relevant. That was really hard to say. It's culturally relevant. It's relevant because in the West, Christmas is linked with Christianity and also the concept of Christmas miracles. The idea of the Christmas miracle is linked in with belief in magic or divine actions, and this has been explored in literature throughout history. People assume that God is feeling generous around Jesus' birthday, or the simple Yule and end of year celebrations spark positive change. The movie's setup is that angels are observing George's crisis and are planning to intervene. They're on medical duty because it's Christmas. I guess they're not looking for opportunities to be angels at other times of the year. The film was actually made because a lot of people find Christmas a really difficult time, and the studios were tasked with discouraging people from doing what George Bailey attempts to do in the movie. So Christmas isn't really the instigator, but the environment of Christmas is grating at George, and it's because of Christmas that he is able to come out of his crisis. It being set at Christmas is integral to the film. It also just makes for a really good ending because, you know, decorations, carols, family, Christmas. So this is my own interpretation of the golden age of Christmas movies. It's not official. They did not teach me this at film school. I've just observed that in the 80s, 90s and early noughties, there were a lot of strong Christmas films. I'm going to focus on a few really strong movies from this era, but just know that there are so many that I love. I could talk about this all day. The Muppets Christmas Carol is my favourite adaptation of A Christmas Carol and fortunately falls within that 80s, 90s, early noughties bracket, although the story itself is obviously what? Okay. Although the story itself is obviously a very traditional Christmas story, it was written in the 1800s, I think. And there have been many adaptations of it, but this one was really, really strong. They managed to add humour, music and warmth to this already brilliant tale, and Michael Caine should have got an Oscar for this. A Christmas Carol has to take place at Christmas. It has to establish how deeply corrupt Scrooge has become by setting him up as the opposition to Christmas, because it's this accepted holiday of joy, love and rest, and he doesn't want to engage in that. It also feeds into the Christmas miracle narrative by using divine intervention. Again, it's that whole feeling that the spirits are looking for opportunities in order to improve the world. It so happens that Christmas Eve is the anniversary of Marley's death, which is entirely believable because we still struggle with winter illnesses today. Marley is warning Scrooge that he's been in purgatory now for 7 years thanks to the chains that he forged in his former selfish, tight, miserable life. So there's this real tie to the magic of Christmas and the challenges of winter. Furthermore, I'm really getting carried away with the video essay aspect of this. Furthermore, Scrooge visits past Christmases and notably has conversations around the end of the year. So for example, when Scrooge's girlfriend in the past is asking about will they be married soon, he talks about how, nah, this wasn't a good financial year, I'm gonna have to try harder next year. It's clear that these conversations are happening around Christmas time because it is a period of reflection on your life. The theme of Christmas being a challenge and an opportunity is beginning to gather steam now. So Home Alone is a fantastic story. It would hold up even if it weren't set at Christmas. But the franticness of taking such a large family on an international holiday at Christmas time would lead you to be rash, rush about, and maybe forget something as important as your own son. The busyness of public transport would mean that it would be difficult to catch a flight at Christmas on the day that you need it. The strategy of the Wet Bandits is to rob rich families who typically go on vacation over Christmas. So Christmas is crucial to making the story work. I suppose they could have written it in the summer and came up with other reasons as to why these things were happening. But a large part of the Christmas ritual is to be with family, and this is the main issue of this film. If Christmas wasn't coming, then Kevin may just be chilling at home, like, oh, hey, you guys are back. Kevin has to want to have his family back. He has to come to the realization of the value that they bring to his life, and he realizes this when he's bonding with his neighbour at the church. Kevin goes into the church because he hears Christmas carols being sung, and that's because there's some sort of night service or choir practice that's going on that typically happens at Christmas. Like with George Bailey and Scrooge, it's an example of some personal healing happening at Christmas time. In all of these films, Christmas presents obstacles that lead to the character being in their situation, but Christmas also provides opportunity for the character to grow. Then there's Elf. Elf is a latecomer to this character. Elf is a latecomer to this category, coming out in 2003. But whoever came up with this idea, oh my god. I've just looked the writer up, and this is the only film worth mentioning that he wrote. He definitely peaked in 2003. So Elf is thoroughly immersed in Christmas. There is no denying that this is a Christmas film. Christmas is the anchor of the main character, Buddy's life. He lives and breathes it. He is a Christmas character. But cleverly, Christmas is the obstacle that's in Buddy's way, and it's also a tool for his growth. Christmas is Buddy's bubble, and it has prevented him from understanding the world outside of this one annual event. But by observing Christmas through the lens of others, Buddy comes to understand the world in a different way. So at this moment, it's fair to say that a Christmas movie has to be set at Christmas. Christmas has to be an obstacle that prevents the character from living their best life. And then Christmas also has to be the tool that is used to grow and overcome your flaws. This era of Christmas movie that we're in right now is commonly known as Hallmark. Even if the film isn't made by Hallmark, it has set the vibe. And I don't even know if I've ever seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, because that's just something that Americans talk about. Like, I don't have the Hallmark channel on my TV. I don't even know how I would access it online. It's just this thing that people talk about, and we've all come to understand exactly what that means. They are typically rom-coms. They're usually a bit cheap. They're very formulaic. Basically, the character starts off either in a bad relationship or single, and they end up with the person of their dreams, thanks to the magic of Christmas. The predecessor to such Hallmark films are rom-coms like The Holiday, which came out in 2006. It was a studio movie, so it's not quite on the same cheapness level as a Hallmark film, but it does have the same vibe. The idea is that two women are disappointed and fed up with their love lives, and so they swap houses for the Christmas period. They've both discovered infidelity in their relationships and have decided that they need an escape. But other than Christmas being a period of time where white-collar workers are already off, there's not really any need for this to be set at Christmas. Like, you can just take a vacation anytime. They don't encounter any obstacles because of Christmas. Like, they're able to get last-minute transportation across the world with ease. Neither of them are worried about being single at Christmas. And honestly, neither of them care about Christmas at all. Kate Winslet's character doesn't even tell her brother that she's going across the world for the Christmas period, and presumably she would have been spending Christmas with him. Kate Winslet's character meets an old movie producer who brings her out of her shell, and she also falls for Jack Black's character, who is also unlucky in love, having discovered that his partner also cheated. 2006 was a big year for cheating. Her main growth is that by spending time with the old movie producer who's reflecting on his life and meeting someone who's going through the same thing as her, she gets over her grief of her failed relationship. It wasn't anything to do with Christmas. Cameron Diaz's character travels to England, finds it quite lonely, nearly leaves, and then doesn't because Jude Law's character uses his sister's house as a hostel sometimes and finds her there. Not Christmas related either. Her growth comes from learning to trust English dad because he lies to her throughout the movie, and his biggest lie is that he's a widower with 2 young daughters and somehow she has a soft spot for that. Now here's where I think there's maybe a spark of Christmas involvement. It could be said that the house swap was possible because of a Christmas miracle. The fact that they were both going through this at the same time, they both happened to list their houses on this website and make the swap happen. But it's a stretch. Without Christmas, this could still have happened. The internet is for life, not just for Christmas. So I'm gonna say The Holiday, which is a rubbish title for a film anyway, is not a Christmas film. It's just a film set at Christmas. I'd love to dive into whether other Christmas rom-coms are or aren't Christmas films, but we don't have all day and I'm about to get to the crux of the video. So based on my research, I'm saying that a Christmas film has to be set at Christmas. Christmas has to provide obstacles for the characters and also present opportunities for growth. Released on July 15th, 1988, Die Hard was a summer blockbuster. But its release date is probably because action films typically come out in the summer. Back in the day, people would queue up outside the theatre for tickets, hence the name blockbuster. And it's probably more enticing to do that on a warm summer's evening than on a cold winter's night. The movie's writer said that he did intend for it to be a Christmas movie, that's why it's set at Christmas, and he said it's also why it has Christmas songs. I don't remember anything about the music, and I watched this film 2 nights ago. The only thing I remember is that they used Ode to Joy like 4 times. Anyway, it is set at Christmas, but does Christmas provide an obstacle? The reason everyone is at Yakatomi Plaza is because of the Christmas party. That's why John McClane's wife Holly is there, and that's why John McClane shows up. Is it common to have a party in the office at another time of year? Let's say that they could. Let's say that they would have a summer party to celebrate strong sales or something like that. Would John McClane have gone to it?
I don't think so.
Christmas is typically a time that you spend with family, and McClane was going out to LA because that's where his family were, and they had suffered difficulties because of their distance. At the beginning of the film, McClane admits to the limo driver, who is a legend by the way, that he didn't think his wife would be successful, and that was the reason why he was fine with her going out to LA. He was like, yeah, go to LA, have a career. Good one. I mean, that's definitely why she doesn't want him anymore, right? Anyway, he's going to have a shower in her office because it's that kind of workplace. And whilst McClane is half undressed, the terrorist attack begins. So the Christmas party, teamed with familial tension, is what drew McClane into that specific location. The Christmas party is also what brings the terrorists in, because they know that there's not going to be many people coming or going from the building at that point in time. There's going to be minimal security, which is easy for them to take over, and they know that the guy with the security codes is going to be in the building. So it is a good opportunity for them to heist. I think that Christmas did set up the obstacle, or at least was the plot armor of the obstacle. Does Christmas provide an opportunity for growth in McClane? He has to overcome a lot of barriers, such as being outnumbered, no one believing in him, and being barefoot. He banked the future of his family on his wife's failure, and now is getting a taste of what it feels like when no one believes in you. But I can't really gauge if there was growth here because he and his wife don't talk at the end of the film. It's kind of bizarre. I also think they frame Holly's success as Ellis's perversion. He's a guy from the office, maybe her superior, and at the beginning of the film we see that he's given her a Rolex that seemingly matches his own. There's this sort of feeling that maybe her success wasn't because she's really good at her job, but more that this guy has groomed her and taken her on as his own, and now that's where her loyalties lie. Ellis tries to steal McClane's wife and lure McClane into the terrorists. And when the Rolex is undone, sending Hans Gruber to his death, it's almost symbolic of McClane taking a chokehold off of his wife. They immediately kiss, so, I mean, okay, words can't describe what just happened. But even on the way out, like, he doesn't just turn and say, "I'm sorry I ever doubted you. I'm sorry I risked our life together on the assumption that you would fail. I'm sorry that I didn't just transfer to the LAPD so that we could both have our dream jobs." But I suppose that their separation is what led him to being in that building at the right time. It's set at Christmas. Christmas does set up the obstacles, but Christmas does not facilitate growth for John McClane. So I'm gonna say that Die Hard is a fantastic action / lukewarm Christmas film. What do you guys think? Do you think Die Hard is a Christmas film, or do you know someone who would argue otherwise? Show them my rating system and try it out on other Christmas movies and let me know what you think. You know how you get the Bechdel test? This could be the Christmas film test, because like Christmas, ash, film. It sounds more like two Christmas films mashed together. So however you want to share it is fine. See you next time.